look who it is. Nice to see you all again. Thank you for joining us for episode 3. Today we'll be talking about twists and turns, because things are never what they seem. Some of the most memorable films ever made to date have been ones that had the capacity to manifest the unexpected. This can often be done with twists, turns, plot changes, exciting moments, as well as incredible endings. Now, to have a crazy reveal at the end of a film that comes completely unexpected, it requires an exceptional amount of writing, something that's not seen by the common director or common filmmaker. Now we've compiled a list of 10 of the best that have been able to truly surprise the viewer and really take you for a loop. And of course, there are so many good ones that we couldn't include, but we decided to choose 10 of the best in no particular order.
Open the fucking door!
Now, the first movie on our list we need to mention is The Autopsy of Jane Doe. It's a very, very interesting movie that really takes you for a loop. It's one of those horror movies that kind of fell under the radar when it came out, basically flopped at the box office, but now it became more of a favorite among the genres, often finds itself on top 10 lists and other larger lists within the genre. As for the movie, it's about a father and son who own a mortuary, and they receive a body in the middle of the night and have to come in. They don't know who she is. She's considered a Jane Doe, and they have to perform an autopsy to see what the cause of death was. Emile Hirsch is one of the main characters, with Brian Cox playing his father in the movie. Both phenomenal actors playing really interesting roles outside of their comfort zone. As for the story itself, what makes it interesting is that as they perform the autopsy, they start to see stranger and stranger anomalies about this Jane Doe. Things that they can't explain, things that don't make any sense. And without spoiling anything, it's important to say that something strange is definitely going on. Now, when I saw the movie, I was pleasantly surprised, loved the concept, loved the story. It had a great budget, great sound, great cinematography, fantastic special effects, and it didn't require a huge budget overall, which means they really got to do a lot of cool things with the money that they had for this film. The Autopsy of Jane Doe is a definite must watch. It's incredible. It's got twists and turns, a huge reveal, fantastic effects, and overall just eye candy when it comes to horror films. All right, guys, so next one I want to mention is Perfect Blue. And I'm sure many of you have not heard of it unless you're anime buffs. It is the only animated film on this list, and certainly the only anime on this list. Perfect Blue was a movie that inspired many, many different films over the years. The story in itself is a huge mystery, starring a character that is famous and well-known because of her singing. She's someone who's in the public eye, who gets bothered a lot. She ends up finding herself in a situation where she has her very own stalker, and people begin to die around her. I really can't give up too much about this film, but it's visually stunning. The colors are super vibrant. The illustrations are sharp and perfect, very reminiscent of almost an upgraded version of what we experienced during 80s anime films, meaning that it was not digital, it was all done practically, and it just has an incredible score, incredible script, and for most people who watch anime films, it easily makes its way into their top 10. A true suspense and psychological horror. Understandably, you might not be someone who likes animated films or anime in general. It's still one of those films that you have to watch just for the sheer terror, suspense, and of course that incredible twist of an ending. So if you make the time, you will not regret watching Perfect Blue.
No, you got to get there faster.
Sorry, sir, it jammed.
Once again, from the top.
Okay, guys, can't break yet. Ready? Take 2.
This one here is a staple in the twist genre. I mean, honestly, who hasn't heard of The Machinist? It is one of Christian Bale's early roles, arguably his best performance of all time. He is still very well known and talked about just for the amount of weight that he lost during the film. Now, according to reports, he was asked to lose a little bit of weight, but once he reviewed the script and understood that the character of Trevor Resnick was truly distraught and very, very skinny, he lost so much weight that he ended up at 92 pounds when he showed up on set. So much so that the director could not believe what he was seeing. Now, if you've ever seen this film, you'll understand why I'm talking about this. It really and truly brings a sadness to the role. And I think that Christian Bale really understood what he was going through for the amount of time that he had to starve himself in an unhealthy manner. He embraces it just in the way that he moves and the way his skin and his bones look under the light that he's perceived. Now, enough about that. Let's really talk about the story. The story is about the character of Trevor Resnick, played by Christian Bale, who's a machinist. He works in a machine shop, mostly works with metal. And you're essentially getting a peek into his strange life. A little bit about his love life, his work life, and he later reveals to his lover that he hasn't slept in over a year. Now, it's clear that he's extremely unhealthy. He barely eats. He doesn't do much with his life besides work and go home. And you can tell that he's very sad, very much in despair all the time. Now, what makes this movie very, very interesting is as the minutes go by, you're constantly being dangled these new clues of carrots telling you that something is off and something is not right. And there's no way that you could ever expect the way that the story turns by the time you get to the end of the story. The writing was incredible. Cinematography was just picture perfect. And what I really appreciate as a writer myself are a lot of the small nuances that were written into the story to throw you off of what's actually happening. And it's done just so flawlessly that you'd never know what's coming your way. If you haven't seen it, it's such a good film. It's just, I don't know. It's the kind of film I would teach about in a master class about film, whether it comes to writing, cinematography, even directing and acting. It just really hits every single mark. So if you haven't seen it, go watch The Machinist. It's very good.
I'll be right back. Don't just be on me now.
All right, guys, the next story we need to talk about is Triangle. Another horror that really went under the radar when it came out. And I remember when I was trying to watch it, I could barely find a source to watch it anywhere on the internet. It was kind of those films that fell so far under the radar that they almost became obscure. I'm not even sure if it got a theater release or if it went straight to DVD at the time. I had really only heard of it because of a top 10 list from someone else, so I decided to check it out. Now, this movie is very interesting. It stars Melissa George, and the story is about a few friends that decide to take an afternoon and go out on a sailboat. Now, when they do, they get caught in a very huge storm. The boat gets turned over, and they essentially get stranded. Out of nowhere, a huge cruise ship ends up finding its way towards them out in the middle of the ocean. They get on it to seek refuge, and as they get on and begin to look around, they see that the ship is completely empty. They can't find a single person. Now, this film leaves you breadcrumbs all along the way to try and show you what's going on, but it really takes until the last few minutes of the film to fully understand what's going on. And even at that, it's still hard to wrap your head around. It's one of those films that feels very isolating, kind of desolate, think ghost ship kind of thing. It's almost abandoned. They don't know what's going on. And it does eventually become a story of survival. I can't tell you why. I can't tell you who, but something is going on that ship. So if you get the chance, I'm sure you can find it somewhere online nowadays. It's much more well known. Triangle.
You all right?
I feel like I know this place. I recognize this corridor.
The liners, they look pretty similar.
No, that's not it.
Come check this out.
All right. Next one on our list is a film that I've actually previously mentioned, and that is The Mist. The Directed by Frank Darabont, this film is awesome. It's probably going to come up on several lists in several seasons and several episodes of the series. And I think that's just because it hits so many boxes when it comes to judging a film like this. The film is about a mysterious mist that takes over a small town in Maine. And as people seek to find safety, they seek refuge in a local grocery store. During that time, they encounter lots of danger. They also have to work together to survive. Now, of course, the film has amazing themes of religious extremism and disparity, what people do when they're in dangerous situations and how they work together. The cinematography is beautiful, special effects are fantastic, and of course, coming from a Stephen King novella, it's really great. It's fantastic. Now, this movie isn't necessarily on the list because of a twist, but more so because of a reveal. So if you enjoy those types of stories with a crazy plot twist or a crazy reveal, you have to watch The Mist. It will stick with you forever.
There's nothing out there. Nothing in the mist.
What if you're wrong?
Then I guess the joke would be on me.
All right, guys. So the next one on our list is very important to me. It is one of the first independent films that I ever saw at Fantasia Film Festival here in Montreal, and that is The Midnight Meat Train. Now, this film really took me for a spin when I first saw it. And the reason is not because I was at Fantasia Film Festival, because that was a really exciting experience. I think it was because the story was very original, the twists and turns were fantastic, but I felt like I was really seeing things from the perspective of the main character. So to give you a little bit of the story, obviously without spoiling anything, it stars a character who is a photographer and is one day walking through the city taking photos and sees a man. And as he examines him and takes photos of him, he starts to see that there's something mysterious about this man. And one day he decides he's going to follow this man home. So as he does so, he takes photos here and there, and he follows them onto the subway and takes the subway not too far behind to find out where he's going and who he is. Now, I really can't spoil much more than that, but I can tell you that it is a very exciting film filled with mystery, almost cat and mouse, but not quite. But I can guarantee you it's totally worth seeing where the story goes from there. When I saw it for the first time, I just really wasn't expecting it. I was expecting a cheap horror flick, something with a lot of gore. I wasn't expecting such good execution of mystery. And just, I don't know how the writer figured this out, came up with these ideas, but there was just a perfect execution of how the story went from start to finish. Loved it, 10 on 10. I would recommend Midnight Meat Train to anybody.
We're getting off the next stop, so you can do what you want, but we're getting off, okay?
All right, fine.
All right, guys, so I have to talk about this one. It's the most mainstream film on this list here, so I'm sure most of you have seen it, and that's Cabin in the Woods.
Are you even listening to me?
I'm sure it's no surprise on why I need to include it in this list. It's got one of the best reveals for the end of the film, probably that anyone has ever seen. It's about a few friends that decide to go into a cabin in the woods for a little weekend vacation. And when they get there, they find a basement in the cabin that they're not supposed to be in and start to see all of these strange objects and things lying around. And of course, they're curious, so they start to look at everything. Little do they know, stepping into that basement and starting to touch things in there is what completely ruins their vacation and then some. Now, of course, there is a small twist at that part, but there's an even bigger twist at the end.
Kurt, what the fuck? Where are you? Kurt? Hold on. Is all of this from you? Where's Jules? Okay, Kurt, you're okay. Where's Jules?
She's gone.
So for whatever reason you haven't seen this film, even if you don't like horror, even if you don't like suspense, it's just really creative. It's very well directed. The story is so perfect and even funny at times. So I highly recommend Cabin in the Woods just for all of its ups and downs. You will have such a fun time watching that movie.
I'm chilly.
And the next film on our list is Sound of My Voice. This is probably a movie that none of you have ever seen. It was pretty independent when it came out. I don't even remember how I fell on this movie. I heard about it around the time that it came out, or maybe a year after it came out. Really didn't know what to expect from the story. The synopsis really didn't tell me much, and I think that was kind of on purpose for the marketing of that movie. But definitely had a very, very unique story. So to summarize what the story is about, these two filmmakers are making a real-time documentary, something so unique that they're hoping to get their big break. Now they hear about someone who essentially claims that she has come from the future. And now she's amassing a following, almost like a cult. It's very hard to get in. They have to pick you up somewhere. Then you have to shower completely. You have to change into the clothes that they give you. Then you need to get into another van and they transport you somewhere else where you end up meeting this person. And all through the movie, it's very interesting. And as the viewer, you're not sure what to believe. Did she come from the future? Did she not? Who gives a shit? But you start to see that there's something very interesting happening and that she needs to kind of keep this thing a secret, whatever she's trying to tell the world or tell these people. Now, she's essentially amassing followers, almost like soldiers, but her claim is not to war. Her claim is to peace, and she essentially wants to share the knowledge that she has of the future so that things will be better for humans in the future that she comes from. Now, of course, the twist and the reveal are going to have to do with the ending. Whether she did come from the future, she didn't, or if there's something else that's related to the story, it's up to you to actually watch it and find out. But Britt Marling does a fantastic job as the lead actress. She's wonderful. She keeps the mystery going. And of course, the writing of the story is exceptional because it keeps you along right up until the very end to see what the truth of the situation was. Sound of My Voice is somewhere on the internet, so I'm sure you'll be able to watch it anytime you want. Check it out right away.
Like in meditation, you know, but for hours. And I couldn't wake them up. They were strangers to me. And I couldn't remember anything. I still had to wake up every day. I still had to keep going.
Next up, we have Gerald's Game. I love this movie. I discovered it by accident on Netflix. Did not know that it was a Mike Flanagan film. Did not know it was a Stephen King adaptation. I just went in and watched the damn thing. And I was like, what the fuck did I just watch? And it's interesting because it's not one of those movies that's trying to trick you the whole time. You know, much like watching Memento and the guy's got, you know, he can't figure out what's going on. You can't figure out what's going on. And there's this whole mystery. Instead, the mystery is very ambiguous. You're watching a straightforward story, but you really don't understand that there's a mystery until you get towards the end of the film. Now, the story's also interesting. It's a husband and wife that have had their turmoil. They're trying to give some spark back to their sex life. So they decide to rent like an Airbnb, like a cabin place that's somewhat isolated. And at some point during the day, they decide to, you know, have a little fun together. And the husband asks his wife, do you mind if I tied you up in handcuffs to the bedpost? Which she's hesitant to, but decides, you know what, let's do it. Let's see what this could do for us. And soon after, he has a heart attack. So you can imagine what kind of film it is, because she just had to watch her husband die in front of her. She's half naked in lingerie, tied to the bedpost, and can't even reach for a glass of water. Now, I can't tell you much more than that, but I can tell you that even though she's sitting in a bed most of the movie, you will not feel bored for a single second. You will get glimpses into their life, glimpses into her past, as well as a stray dog that shows up to the house they're in. So please, if you get the chance, watch Gerald's Game. It is so fucking good.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
All right, guys. I've mentioned it before in a previous list, but I got to come back to it, and that film is Identity, starring John Cusack. Now, if you haven't seen this film, What I can tell you is it's similar to a murder mystery. There's a lot going on. It's really hard to judge what you're watching because they do give you breadcrumbs along the way, but those breadcrumbs don't actually answer any questions. They just create more questions. That being said, I would highly recommend it. It's a really interesting story about the main character, played by John Cusack, gets stuck at a hotel during a very terrible storm. A storm that's so bad that the highway is inaccessible to leave the hotel. During that time, people start to die at the hotel. And much like a murder mystery, we're trying to find out who's behind it all. Halfway through the movie, they throw you for a loop, but you will never expect the ending of this movie. It's something that totally blindsides you, comes out of left field and slaps you on the side of the head. So if you haven't seen it, it did come out about 20 years ago, but it's called Identity. And honestly, looking back, it might be one of the best twist and reveal movies ever made. So, I mean, all of these are, but that one in particular really hits it out of the park for me. So if you get a chance, check out these awesome movies.
When I was going up the stairs, I met a man who wasn't there. He wasn't there again today. I wish you'd go away.
Well, everybody, thanks again for joining us. Hopefully this episode will give you a new appreciation for writing and the importance of a very good ending. If you like what you see, please like and subscribe. It really goes a long way. And you can join us here next Sunday for a new episode. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.